All right, so money mindset as part of our sex and relationships theme this month, I thought that it was really important to talk about our relationship with money. And I tossed up getting someone in like a financial kind of guru person. And then I thought, you know what? I've actually gone through quite a transformational relationship with money myself, with the help of mentors and personal, doing stuff on my own. And I figured I could share that with you guys as someone who's been in the trenches and done that and gone through it. Now, you might be thinking, well, why are we doing this? Because money isn't everything. And there's going to be people on here who think, oh, I'm not motivated by money and yada, yada, yada. I'll get to you in a bit. But money represents energy, it represents choice, it represents potential opportunities, potential decisions, potential paths. And it is not about the amount that we have. It is about how you relate to it and how you use it. Because even those who do claim that money doesn't matter, you are shaped by your relationship with money. Whether you love it, whether you fear it, you ignore it, money influences your daily decisions. So what we're going to cover in this workshop is exploring why financial wellness matters beyond just the numbers in your bank account, your relationship with it, learning to identify different money personality types and their impacts, discovering practical steps to transform your relationship with money if that is something that you need to do. So by the end of this workshop, you will have the tools to assess where you're at and improve your relationship with money, which is going to improve your financial wellness long term. This, I'll argue with it until the cows come home, but this matters to everybody. No one is exempt from dealing with money in some capacity. If you are, let me know. But we all have to deal with money, right? And so your money mindset affects stress levels, relationships, opportunities, whether that's to do with work, whether that's to do with social things. And just like your relationship with food, with training, self-sabotage, understanding your money patterns can break negative cycles and create positive change. So let's get into it. So why having a good relationship matters. So when it comes to your mental health and stress, 72% of Americans are kept awake at night by money worries. 72%. And studies have shown that money worries activate the same brain regions as physical pain. Like, just let that settle in for a minute. So when you are feeling like hurt about money, it's setting off the same receptors in your brain. People with poor financial health report higher levels of depression and anxiety. And the flip side of that is financial security, well-being, and a good relationship with money and with yourself about money is a foundation of psychological well-being, because we all have to deal with money every day, right? We can't avoid it. When it comes to relationships and family dynamics, it's one of the biggest reported things that married couples fight about more than any other topic. Financial trust or lack of it can have a massive impact on relationships, whether that's familial ones, friendship ones, romantic ones. And if you are struggling with money in a romantic relationship, that will lead to a decrease in intimacy, communication, and it can lead to resentment and things like that. And all of us, as children, absorb our parents' attitude towards money. If you are someone who has kids, then that's going to be the same kind of thing. But we all have that to deal with. Thank you, parents. We all have that to deal with. When it comes to careers, I feel like this is a big one, especially for you guys in here, because a lot of financial pressure can force us to stay in unfulfilling jobs, right? So we've all made decisions where we don't really want to do it, but it can feel like a gilded cage. Our relationship with money or debt or financial health can limit career pivots. It can stop us from setting up that business, doing that thing that we want to do. And when we have a good relationship with money, we're able to take calculated risks because of how we treat money, what we see money as, and our understanding of it. So, it really does have a big impact on all of us. As I said earlier, financial stress is one of the top causes of anxiety, whether that's worrying about bills, whether that's worrying, having uncertainty, because the impact that that has on your nervous system, if you're worrying about bills, chronic release of stress hormones. If you have like triggers in and around money, that's going to heighten your adrenaline, your norepinephrine, your fight or flight responses. Um, and when we're in debt, the same study that showed about the pain regions, it can give us the sense that we are being chased, like we're being hunted. That is how our brain kind of deals with it. So if we are to improve that and bring our stress levels down, that is going to have a massive impact on every area of our life, and particularly what we're talking about getting results. Um, I've already touched on money relationships and impacting marriages, whether that's different money personalities, whether that's hidden spending, whether that's, what we might call financial infidelity, people spending things that they're not supposed to, or that's not been agreed. And it can often spill over into other areas of the relationship. So when we create a level of wealth, that is something that can go with us. If we've got kids, it can create generational wealth. It can also help us with the future, make our decisions a lot easier as we get older. And ultimately, for me, the biggest part of the ripple effect is the health benefits. You know, Financial security correlates with longer life expectancy. Also, if you need money to have private healthcare, having a better relationship with money long term is certainly going to help you with that. Less stress means lower blood pressure, means better heart health, means better hormone regulation, means better sleep, and that is going to impact all of your markers in and around your health. So money really does have a huge impact on every single thing. And if we are not aware of what our relationship is with it, or we have a poor one, that is going to have a big effect on us. So let's look into what causes poor relationships with money. So obviously childhood influences. So we all absorb, how our parents saw money. Was it a source of joy? Was it a source of conflict? Was it a source of stress? If we overheard parents fighting about money, that's going to create lasting financial anxiety. There's also the family money scripts. This is certainly something I experienced, like rich people are bad, money is the root of all evil, all that kind of shit that we're told when we're younger. There's a scarcity and abundance mindset. Now, if you grew up working class like me, you're probably or even middle class, you're probably very much a scarcity mindset. And that leads to fear-based financial decisions. And any decision, whatever we make that's made out of fear, is never going to be good for us long term. Also, if you grew up on the other end of that and you had a wealthy upbringing, you might have poor budgeting skills. There's also the internal perception of how we see things. So whether we said we can't afford that or we're choosing not to buy that, it's the same outcome, but two very different feelings on that. And so the language that we use with other people and internally has a huge impact on our scarcity versus abundance mindset. Obviously, another thing that impacts childhood influences is our learned behaviors. We mimic our parents' saving and spending patterns. We, witness like normalization of certain habits in and around wealth or around finances even, sorry. And also we absorb how our parents spoke about finances with each other, how they handled financial decisions and those discussions and the communication styles that happen in and around them. So that is a huge thing that is going to have an impact on us and our relationship with money. Then we've got cultural society and societal factors. So consumerism, whereas a joke that we have in our friends group, whenever someone buys something, we just go consumerism, buy now, pay later. That culture encourages instant gratification. How many times has instant gratification moved you away from your health and fitness goals? See how everything overlaps, everything interweaves. Also, like things like material possessions are often equated with personal worth. And this is something that is very, you know, active, especially in gay men with best little boy in the world syndrome, you know, wanting to prove and buy and do and have and do more to prove that ties in with our worthiness. Moving on, lack of education. I mean, how many people have thought, do you know what? I've never used algebra in my life since school, but no one taught me how to pay my taxes, or nobody taught me how to budget, or like there really is a financial literacy gap. And you know, complex financial systems like investments and stocks and shares are poorly explained to us. Interest rates, inflation, compounding are often misunderstood concepts. You know, and credit scores impact us. And not all of us know how we do that. And we can, you know, it might be how you felt when you first joined GMC. You look at everything and you go, oh my God, there's so much, and it's overwhelming. And that has a huge impact on, you know, everything from taking out a mortgage to savings. And that, as I've said there, limits our understanding of personal finance basics. You know, like what's the difference? So a lot of people don't know the difference between a debit card and a credit card. You know, stocks and bonds, tax implications, budgeting principles. A lot of people are oblivious to it because of their relationship with money. They're scared of it, they avoid it, whatever that might be. Absence of money management skills, as I've touched on, whether that's bill paying, negotiating, long-term finance planning. And then obviously there's this big one here, emotional and psychological factors. Like, just even if you don't have it now, let's just stick a 1 in the chat if you have ever had a fear or an anxiety around something to do with money, because I certainly have. Me and Harry often have conversations about my accountant as well, so you can ask him about my relationship with money as well. But money can represent safety, and threats to it trigger primitive fears. Financial uncertainty can, as I said, signals physical danger. Past financial trauma can create ongoing vigilance and stress around money, and fear of making mistakes can often lead us to financial paralysis. There's also the guilt and the shame about our money as well. Society links financial success with personal worth. Yeah, debt carries a lot of moral judgment if it's not your education or your mortgage. So it really does have a big impact. And then lots of people are using money for emotional fulfillment. You know, who's ever done retail therapy? You know, because that gives us that hit of dopamine. We can often do it because we seek an external validation and we try to buy things. So can you see how many things that we go through life that are often no fault of our own have a big impact on our relationship with money, right? That we can all see that, yeah. And that's why it's so important to address this and not just skirt over it. So let me quickly run you through the different types of people, the archetypes, if you will, of people with relationships with money. So the avoider, this is certainly who I was when I first, well, as an adult, to be honest with you, whether you're ignoring bills and statement, unopened mails, like forgetting things, passwords and stuff, so you don't have to go in, credit card statements going unopened, as a person who procrastinates on financial decisions, whether that's investments, whether that's insurance, whether that's paperwork just accumulating, and you live in denial about your financial situation, where you overestimate your income, you underestimate your expenses, you refuse to track or create budgets. See, does this sound familiar for people with tracking food as well? The avoider. It ignores warning signs. You know, when you start getting those those urgent letters through. So that's the avoider. Let's stick a 1 in the chat if you feel like you're the avoider, if that's been your archetype. That is certainly what I would put in there. I would be the avoider. Then we've got the spender. So this is the person who's doing impulse buying, unplanned purchases. Oh, unplanned purchases, shopping being a coping mechanism, retail therapy, so that shopping is filling that emotional void. Money burns a hole in their pocket, so frequently raiding their savings account, and they know as soon as they earn some money that it's got its hat and coat on and it's going somewhere. Um, Give me a 2 in the chat if you're a spender. Okay, a few 2s. All right, and then we've got the hoarder. So this is like the opposite of the spender. So super frugal, like denies basic needs to save money. Quality of life suffers. Good deals are impossible to resist, even if they don't need them. There's people who'll buy like 100 rolls of toilet paper, even though they don't need them because they're like half price or whatever. That's the hoarder. But they have a fear of spending. Whether that's home repairs, whether that's they're eating expired food because they don't want to have waste, and and a key one is that they have difficulty enjoying the money that they earn. They carry a lot of guilt in and around money, even if it's a planned purchase. Money saved brings anxiety rather than security, and they get tied up in feeling morally wrong when they make like pleasure purchases. Have we got any hoarders in the house? Any hoarders? 3. Okay. Yeah. Okay, a couple of 3s, right? Then we've got the gambler. So that's like, you boom or bust, all or nothing investment strategies, like borrowing to invest, which is wild, speculative trading, the person who gets a hot tip on things. People who like try day trading and they don't know what they're doing. They've just watched a couple of YouTube tutorials, and they're really emotional with their money. Yeah, angry, sad, happy. That has a huge impact on how they move money, and they're just hoping for get rich quick things. Whether that's cryptocurrency, whether that's pyramid schemes, whether that's like lottery spending and call it an investment, but they avoid steady, long term, safe, financial accruing finances. Any gamblers in the house? Any gamblers in the house? And then the last one we've got is the people pleaser. Now, I would imagine that we've all been this person at certain times, but a person who spends to get approval, buys expensive gifts beyond their budget, picking up the check just to feel valued, lending money to maintain friendships. Like I know there's a few people in James who've done that. People who have difficulty saying no to financial requests, whether that's family members taking advantage, whether that's friends borrowing money, whether that's like a guilt-driven financial decision. And then, people use money to buy love or friendship or feeling sexy. Look at OnlyFans. Guys, you only have to look at the boom of OnlyFans to see how many people do this kind of stuff. So whether they equate spending with caring, whether they fear that saying no to means that they'll lose a relationship. And a lot of people who are in this people pleaser mode feel that love requires financial sacrifice. All right. So I think it's really important to acknowledge that there are these archetypes, and it's not black and white. You're not going to be one. You're going to be shades of a few of them, but there will probably be one that you predominantly lean towards, that you feel represents you. I think we've got a representation of all of them in this group here, apart from the gambler. So we know some very different ways that a relationship with money can look unhealthy. So let's look at what a healthy relationship with money looks like. So number one is a balanced perspective. We use money as a tool, not a goal. This has been one of the biggest lessons that I have learned around money. There was a time in my life where I thought having a certain number in the bank account would make me happy. I got there, guess what? It didn't. But money enables experiences, it doesn't define them. That's really important to remember. having money, it serves a purpose rather than an ego. Money creates options, not obligations. It's also understanding the difference between wants and needs. So clear prioritization of essential versus optional expenses, delayed gratification for long-term benefits, and flexibility between needs and wants, depending on where you are at financially. Because obviously money matters, but being able to know what you need and what you want is really important when it comes to having that balanced perspective. And always having your financial decisions align with your personal values. So your spending should reflect what you matter most. Always spend the most money on the things that bring you the most joy and you want and need the most. Whether you're investing, they should be in line with your ethical beliefs. Your career decisions should balance passion with financial responsibility. They are things that lead to a balanced perspective. And some of the key characteristics of having that healthy relationship with money is regular financial check-ins. So whether that's a monthly budget review, that should become a habit. Annual financial goal reassessments, quarterly investment reviews or earnings reviews, and regular discussions with your spouse or your family. And if you have financial advisors, whether that is an accountant, whether that's a bookkeeper, or whether that's a long-term financial advisor, you should be speaking to them regularly. Not just ad hoc once a year when you get round to it. You should have an emergency fund and a safety net. Now, the general advice is 3 to 6 months of expenses readily available. So that is your emergency fund that you don't touch. If you were to get sacked, if shit was to hit the fan, you have that. You have separate accounts for different things. The amount of people that just have one account and everything happens in that account, honestly, the thought of that stresses me out so much. Living within or below our means. This is a big one. Our income should exceed our expenses consistently, not just every 1 in 3 months, right? So and also, as we earn more money, we want to control our lifestyle inflation, because lots of us earn more, spend more, earn more, spend more. Yeah, and we can still find ourselves chasing things, even though we're earning more money than we ever thought we might do. So that is something that's really important. And just being able to have like a contentment with your current lifestyle, but while also planning for the future. That really does come into living within or below your means. You should be saving and you should be investing. So having things set up so they're automated, having like an investment portfolio, whether that's stocks, shares, bonds. I mean, I don't do any of that myself. I just give them an amount of money every month and they diversify. You don't have to be, the Wolf of Wall Street to be able to do it, but have an understanding of what is going on with your money, even if it's very basic. I'll admit mine is very, very basic. But my relationship with money, I understand it thoroughly and I know where my blind spots are. I've put in here giving back to the community. Now, this doesn't always have to be in and around money, but obviously if we are going to donate, we should do it within our own budget. But time volunteering is a financial gift. We especially for us as members of the gay community, whether that's turning up to prides, whether that's supporting, gay businesses or whatever it is. I feel like for a lot of us, that plays a big part in how we spend money, and being able to do that and not feel guilty about it, or for it not to put us under pressure, is really important. And as I just kind of alluded to there, it's really important that we're able to enjoy money guilt-free. So planned entertainment and travel, fun money, or as I like to call them, fuck it coupons, that we use for things that we like, whether that's for family members, whether that's for events. And just lastly on that, with enjoying money guilt-free, it really is important to have an appreciation for what opportunities money can provide, but also knowing that you're all right without those things, you're enough without it. That is a huge thing. So something that has really helped improve my relationship with money and will help improve yours. These are a few mindset shifts that we really need to get a handle on. So number one is scarcity to abundance. I spoke about this a lot before. This is something that I worked on with Keegan for the few years that I worked with him, is to focus on the opportunities rather than the limitations, to have gratitude for where you're at. So when this comes to money, it's gratitude for your current financial resources and situation. Having an intrinsic belief that there is enough for everyone. There really is enough for everyone. Confidence that you have the ability to create more money, to earn more money. That's really, really, really important. Stop just being miserly and having that scarcity mindset. From fear to empowerment, this has been a big one for me. I was always brought up to money was bad, people with money are evil, money is causes problems and suffering and yada yada yada. So knowledge replaces that worry. Having an understanding of what money is used for, how it's used, how you earn it. So like if you're proactive with your planning, that eliminates emergencies. You have that way financial choices feel intentional and not forced. And when you step from fear to empowerment, you have confidence in your financial decision making abilities. And something that I cannot stress enough, when it comes to confidence, people think action follows mood, and that is wrong. That is wrong. Mood follows action. Have you ever done something that's really difficult and then and that makes you think, oh, I can do that. So you quit your job that you've been in for ages, and then you quit and you go, oh, I can do that. Or you lift the weight that you've not been able to do, you lift it, or you've not even tried to do it, and then you do it and you lift it and you go, oh, I can do that. Mood comes after action, not the other way around. And it's the same with finances, about being able to take action, whether that's saving, whether that's setting up automated bank accounts, whether that's having a plan, whether that's doing an audit, whatever it might be. And then the last thing, a lot of us have shame around money, around our financial situation. So going from shame to acceptance, which is an acknowledgement of past financial mistakes without dwelling on it. God knows I've made a lot. Think about the amount of money that I've pissed up a wall, fucking stuck up my nose, or just fucking got rid of years gone by. Like I dread to think how much that's been. So it's really important to acknowledge it, but not dwell on it and punish yourself for it. So having that self-compassion during the financial learning process, sharing your financial challenges and your understanding of it without pride or embarrassment on the other side of it. Because there's going to be some of us who know exactly what we're doing, and some of us who don't. And then viewing financial challenges as growth opportunities. I know I talk about this all the time, but challenges are opportunities if you are willing to look for them. Okay, so is everybody with me so far? Is everything I'm making make sense? Okay, good. Right, so we understand what might cause us to have a poor relationship with money. We understand what a poor relationship looks like. We now have an understanding of what a healthy relationship looks like. So now it's time to assess where you are at. So here are some questions that you can answer yourself to, that you can answer. We'll do it right now. So number one is write these down. Please don't put them in the chat. I don't want to feel pressure to share these. Write them down on a piece of paper, so you don't have to share them. So number one is, do you feel anxious or stressed when you think about money? I want you to rate your anxiety level between 1 and 10, 10 being super anxious, 1 being super chill, when you check your bank balance. Yeah? How do you feel when you check your bank balance? Are there any specific money-related triggers that you have? Is it like notifications on your phone, or when you get a statement through or something like that? And just within that, ask yourself, like, how often are you experiencing money-related stress? Daily, weekly, monthly? Just have a think about that when you answer number one. Question number two, are you aware of your income, your expenses, and your net worth? So do you know your like exact monthly income to the pound, to the dollar? Do you know what your top 5 expenses are? Have you calculated your net worth recently? For most of us, like there's not a lot of point in calculating your net worth very often, but it is a good idea to have a basic understanding of it. Question number 3: do you have financial goals and plans? So when I talk about financial goals and plans, I mean a 1 year goal, of like medium term stuff. So I'd say 5 years, and then long term. When I say long term, I'm talking about retirement. And do you have action steps identified for each goal? So I'll be honest, I have short term and medium term and a very vague long term one. If I'm being like fully transparent with you, it is not as nailed down as I'd like it to be. Although that kind of went up in the air a little bit when I got my heart diagnosis, but that's why it's important to have it. Question number 4: do you feel that you can talk openly about money with loved ones? Like, what's your comfort level when you discuss finances with your partner? I'll be honest, Joel has helped me massively with my relationship with money. I used to have personally have a lot of shame and guilt and embarrassment around money. I didn't like to talk about it. As I've said, I was an avoider. So that has been that for me, that is a huge marker in what your relationship with money is like. You will find, obviously, there's going to be exceptions to this. If you grew up working class, there'll be a lot of people that don't ask you about, won't speak about money, how much you earn, how much things cost. It all ends up being a bit of a secret. There's a book that I read as part of my financial literacy journey called Rich Dad Poor Dad, which has some ethical challenges in it, I won't lie. But the concept of how different classes of people discuss money is touched on really well in there, and I would recommend reading it. And then the last question is, do you make financial decisions impulsively or thoughtfully? So, you're conducting your research on if it's a big decision. Do you use emotional or logical decision making? And how much regret frequency do you have after you spend? Do you spend and go, fuck, I shouldn't have bought that? Like, how often does that happen? Because we've all experienced it. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. But if it's happening like 1 in 5 purchases or 1 in 20, there's a big difference. And just a couple of warning signs that your relationship with money is really poor is these. You're avoiding financial decisions. So things like changing the money around, changing the subject around money, living from paycheck to paycheck, even though you don't need to. Like on paper, you don't need to, but you find yourself doing that, spending. If you find yourself hiding financial information from your partner, whether that's apps, letters, whatever it might be, or if you have extreme emotions around spending or saving. That could be panic attacks, euphoria, guilt, anxiety, or even like compulsive buying behaviors. So if you are experiencing some of those, I'm not a money expert, and I would recommend speaking probably to a psychotherapist about it if you are experiencing those. So drop a 1 in the chat if you would like to have a better relationship with money. Okay, lots of 1s. Okay, good. Right. I'm glad you said that. If you'd have said no, that'd have been awkward, wouldn't it? All right, so these are the things that you can do. Number 1 is face the numbers, not the music, face the numbers. So this is a complete financial inventory. So here's how you do it. You list all your income sources with amounts. You document every debt with the balances and the interest rates. You create like a statement of incomes and outcomes, assets, liabilities, and then you gather this is really interesting when you do it. I've done this numerous times. Gather your last 3 months bank statements and go through them. Go through them with a highlighter. What was an essential spend? What was like a frivolous spend? And what was something that you can justify, but you didn't really need to spend? I do red, amber, green. But that is a really good way to get a handle on your numbers. Honestly, once you've got that spreadsheet or a list, or however you want to do it, of your incomes and your outcomes, it's just like when you start tracking food, you just go, fuck, right, I know where I'm at now. Create a budget. So you can use a budgeting app or a spreadsheet, track your income and expenses, categorize all your expenses into needs versus wants. That is important. Electricity, need. Phone bill, need. The newest iPhone out, is that a need or a want? And that's going to that's not a trick question. That's going to differ for different people. For me, I use my iPhone to create content. So having a good camera, I can kind of justify it. I don't know if I'm kidding myself, but I can justify it. Identify your spending patterns and any leaks if there are particular areas that you find yourself spending a lot more money on, and then set realistic spending limits for each category. So that's what you're going to do in your budget. And it is really important to make sure they're realistic. Just like it's really important when we ask you how many training sessions that you can do a week, you give us a realistic target, because if you pick something that's ridiculous, you'll never stick to it. You'll feel like shit, and then this gets pied off. Start building your emergency fund if you don't already have one. Start with $1,000, £1,000, wherever you are, 1,000 of wherever you are. So you want to set up a savings account that is separate to your like day-to-day account. Automate, whether it's weekly or monthly transfers, it'll depend how you get paid, and celebrate milestones and achievements. And then you can work up to like 3 to 6 months expenses gradually over time. But just as we do with your health and fitness, small goals, working towards them, build that confidence and that financial literacy up. Educate yourself. So we've already mentioned a couple of books. I mentioned Rich Dad, Poor Dad. There was a mention of Psychology of Money and Meaningful Money. There's also a book called I think it's called I Will Make You Rich, or something obnoxious like that, but it's actually a really good book about financial literacy. So I can share some of those, but pick one personal finance book a month and read that. Follow reputable financial podcasts or blogs. There's free online courses, financial newsletters. There's loads of stuff. Just make it become a part of your priority list, a part of your personal growth. And then I've said there, as I would always say with everything, seek professional help if you need it, whether that is with a therapist, if it's your relationship, or whether that is an accountant, a financial advisor, or even an accountability buddy, whether that's someone in the group, a friend, a partner, whatever it might be. But if you do those, like immediately your relationship with money will start to improve. Longer term, obviously, I already touched on short, medium, and long-term goals. Practicing mindful spending. So whether that's like a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases, distinguishing between emotional and practical spending. Automate your savings and investments. Honestly, this one, everybody should, in the world that we live in, like you should not be manually. Joel does this at the beginning of every month, and it drives me insane. Just automate everything so that you don't have to see it. Remember the circle of habits. We have triggers and we have actions, and then we have responses. Remove triggers in and around money and just automate things where you can. I've said here financial communication skills. So that's regular talks with your partner. If you've got kids, speak to your kids about it. Also, get good at like being able to talk about money so that you're able to negotiate your salary and prices and things like that work. And develop like an assertiveness around financial barriers. Sorry guys, I can't come that weekend. I'm saving at the minute, and I can't afford it. There's nothing wrong with saying that. It's exactly the same as saying, sorry guys, I'm gonna give this a miss. Like going out and getting on the piss and eating loads of food is not in line with my physical goals at the minute. It's just about developing boundaries and being able to follow through with them. And then I've just said there, creating money rituals and regular check-ins. So whether that's a monthly budget review, weekly spending reflection, on what you've been doing, annual financial goal setting and tracking and celebrating. Me and Joel do this every year, sorry. So there's some things that are going to set you up long term. And then the last bit here, again, mindset stuff. Practice gratitude. Like I would recommend practice gratitude about everything, but tie your financial situation into that. Really key one is reframing your money stories and beliefs. Challenge your beliefs around money. Limiting beliefs. I'll never earn that. I'm not worthy of that. I can't do that. If you think like that, then that's always going to be the case. Develop that financial confidence. And you do that through small wins. So save up £20. Build momentum through small, consistent actions, whether that's monthly, weekly savings. Celebrate progress rather than perfection. We've all heard me say that before. And then lastly, just connect your financial decisions to your personal values. If you align your spending with your core values, then you'll find it that everything becomes a lot simpler and easier. Use your values as a decision-making filter when it comes to making purchases. All right, so let me see what your key takeaways are from this before we open it up. And let's see if they marry up with what I've got as key takeaways. So just put in the chat for me what has been your key takeaways from this. Set smaller goals. Yes, Lee. Mood follows actions. I'm going to change my relationship with money. Have consistency. Money is not the goal. Yes, money is a tool. Money is a tool. Silly to track food and not finances. Celebrate your success and don't beat yourself up too much. Need a better understanding of accounts. Can everybody see the pattern here? That everything there, you could say the same about food, you could say the same about exercise, your sleep, your steps. What gets measured gets managed. Everything is a numbers game. And the numbers that you are afraid of are where the most growth is. Whether that's physically, emotionally, career-wise, everything is numbers, which is bad news for us people who hated maths growing up. But all the more reason to not be scared of them. Yeah. Your relationship with money is learnable and it is changeable, just like your relationship with training, exercise, sleep, food, partners, people. Awareness, as always, is the first step towards transformation. So, like Greg had said there, I need to change my relationship with money. Boom, good. You've got an awareness. Small, consistent actions create lasting change. Lee had mentioned setting smaller goals, which is great. Absolutely. And just like everything else, financial wellness and good relationship with money is a journey. It is not a destination. There is no end point. There really is no end point. There's further forward than where you are now, and there's further back. There isn't an end point. So, Jeremy's just made a point, which goes for the same as any kind of professional that you hire. Make sure they've got the credentials and they're up to date and they keep up to things that they need to keep up to. Do your homework, don't pick a cowboy, as with anything. Great work, guys. Have a fantastic evening, and I'll speak to you soon. See you.